Hey guys, what's up? This is Insanby, and this is a gameplay of the Twisted Metal 2 mod, which I'm playing on the Duckstation emulator. So this is a 1 hour plus long gameplay, and even after cutting all the transitions and speeding up some parts of the gameplay. So this was my first unscripted commentary in a very long while, and I've generally been doing scripted commentaries for some time. So this is going to suck as I am very terrible at improv, and I'm going to have a very difficult time trying to figure out things to say, especially for a 1 hour long video. So bear with me here. Let me see. So this again is a mod of Twisted Metal 2. It was created by Blade Arma, I think. He is a Russian Twisted Metal player, and I'm going to link to the mod in the description in case you want to try it yourself. Again, this can only be played on Duckstation, the PCXS1 emulator. I think that's what it's called. I think it cannot play this file. The file extension is, I think, ECIM or something like that. So the PCXS1 emulator does not accept that. Only the Duckstation emulator does. So if you ever want to play this mod, go get a Duckstation emulator. And of course, make sure you have the appropriate specs to even be able to emulate stuff to begin with. So the particular mod that was created for Twisted Metal 2 generally has a bunch of gameplay tweaks. The most notable ones are the tournament mode being revamped to include the 3 multiplayer specific levels that otherwise cannot be played in single player, which are Suicide Swamp, Suburbia, and LA Rooftops. And to make up for that, you get 9 lives to start with, and 9 lives is plenty enough to go through the entire tournament mode, as long as you still use the same tricks of the trade, because the extra levels generally have not been designed to have any kind of AI to begin with, since they're not accessible in single player. And I think the mod has generally made them as such to be essentially breeder levels, because first of all, they have fewer enemies than the base Twisted Metal 2 levels that are in tournament mode. The absolute smallest, I think, is 4 enemies, which I believe Suburbia and actually no, I think all 3 of them only have 4 enemies, so they are designed to be breeder levels. So even though they are added to tournament mode to extend the overall time that you spend in tournament mode, it's not really much more time, and overall it's just pretty fun to be able to play these levels in single player in a way that is accessible, since you can't play them in challenge mode outside of tournament mode. So outside of tournament mode and 2 players, so it's nice to be able to just play these levels even if they are acting as breeder levels. Anyway, apart from tournament mode being revamped, there are a whole bunch of other notable changes that are made to the game. So there are plenty of gameplay tweaks. The first one is that your inventory has been greatly increased. So I think the base game, you can only carry a max limit of 23 weapons, which is plenty enough to, I guess, to get through most levels. But with this mod, you now get to have, I think, 45 or 50 weapons, and that is a huge boon. That's plenty of pickups that you can work with, and space to grab and hoard stuff like homing missiles, which I generally end up doing on every level as much as possible. When you have stuff that's common like homing missiles, I don't really see a reason why not. You might as well take advantage of it while you can, which I end up doing. So you have the increased inventory. I think specials also recharge faster, but I don't remember if that's a tweak that I read online and I'm just only reciting from memory, or if that's even an actual tweak at all. So I'm just going to assume that's true. I think some pickups give you more per pickup, so like homing missiles, for instance, fire and homing missiles give you 3 per pickup. So that's definitely a nice little boost. However, all the other weapon pickups are still the same. So things like remote bombs are still 1 per pickup. Ricochet bombs are 2 per pickup, and so on. So hoarding some stuff is still going to be a little difficult for things like remote bombs. But apart from that, I don't think that the increased inventory is going to be any less useful in spite of that. So there's that. And then I believe that the energy attacks have been partially revamped. Well, not revamped, slightly tweaked. So the jump command, which is normally up, left, that no longer works. Instead, it's replaced with the L1 plus R1 command, which has been in Eric Twisted Metal, starting with Twisted Metal Black. So that's definitely a very useful change that I welcome, because the up, left command, the game tends to have trouble recognizing it, as well as having trouble recognizing the inputs for some energy attacks as well. So not merely missing the original command when I can do the much more easier L1 plus R1 command to begin with. Also, the minion special, which is done with up, down, up, R2, is no longer possible. It's completely removed, so you can no longer use it as another weapon for your vehicle. Not really much of a loss, I'd say. I'd see the only time it'd be useful is during boss fights, but they also revamped the bosses to have more health. So I don't really find having access to it losing access to it much of a loss. It just forces you to do other means of dealing damage, so that's that. I think there are also some AI tweaks, so some AI will be much more aggressive. Like Outlaw will aggressively use her special whenever you're in close range. I think Outlaw adopts a more aggressive behavior with her special late in the later levels. Earlier on, she might not necessarily use her special when you're in close range, but that's the most notable example. I think the AI will also actually fight each other, but this is most notable when you're in the multiplayer only levels, which are the breather levels in tournament mode. So you'll see when I get to LA Rooftops, there will be a segment of that particular match where I'm just sitting there and watching the AI actually duke it out with each other, which is like a total novelty, because generally speaking, Single Track and Incognito have generally designed their AI to only target the human player, which is you. They rarely ever target each other, and if they do, they probably aren't going to really do much damage to each other. I mean, this makes sense, since they wouldn't want you to just simply hide somewhere and just wait for the AI to tear each other apart. This is probably one area where the 989 Twisted Metal games are much more reasonable in that regard, since they actually fight each other, and therefore that is much more preferable than just having AI ganging up on you. And yes, 9 lives will help alleviate that, but it's certainly nice to have the AI actually deal with each other for a change, so I certainly welcome that. So yeah, 1 hour long gameplay. Commentating is going to be really tough. I'm probably going to end up talking mostly about the gameplay, if I can remember any specifics about the game or the level when I play it. I think I'll probably mostly end up talking about the boss fights. Those are easier to talk about since they have the biggest change where they have the most health. And no, they have more health than they do in the base game. So I end up relying on exploits to take them out, which is unfair, but I'm going to use what I can because it's in a game and the mod has not really changed that particular bit, so it's whatever. Generally speaking, my main goal when tackling any of these levels is to collect as many weapons as possible before moving on to the next level. And I will generally rely on homing missiles to do most of the damage. Homing missiles give you 3 per pickup, so there's pretty much no reason not to hoard them, especially with the increased inventory space. So I hoard them whenever possible, and I will spam them on the cars that are especially weak or have the lightest armor as much as possible. I do try to hoard ricochet bombs and remote bombs. Ricochet still give you 2 per pickup, and remote bombs still only give you 1 per pickup. Remote bombs are pretty useful, and if you don't remember, they do bonus damage on slope surfaces, as well as if the enemy is in midair. But 1 per pickup is definitely difficult to encourage incentivizing hoarding. And also there's some levels are not very kind for remote bomb pickups, so I think at least Paris has 3. I think 3 is the most, the most remote bomb pickups that are available in levels that provide them. But Moscow only has 1 remote bomb pickup, and that's only if it spawns from the beam in the teleporter thing. So if it doesn't spawn at all, then you have no remote bombs to work with. Apart from that, I just mostly rely on homing missiles and my special. Warthog special makes things very easy. I do think Paris was kind of a close call. Well, Moscow was a close call, but that's kind of to be expected because it's a short level. I mean, it's a small level, so that makes things difficult. Plus, the hells are right out in the open, and the AI will be able to pick them up by accident, so definitely pretty difficult to play that level, even though this is medium difficulty. But Paris, I definitely think that it was close calls. Though I do think this health recharged way too quickly by my expectations. So that was a close call. What else about this level? I think one thing I tried not to do was blow up the Eiffel Tower. If I wanted to access the rooftops, I would go to the I don't know how to pronounce it, Louvre. Basically this building to the right, and I'll teleport here and then just jump to the buildings. This prevents the AI from being able to access the upper part. And also here, because I was in a cluster setting, that's where I decided that maybe it would be a good idea to use the remote bombs instead of hoarding them. It's definitely a quick way to take out the enemies, and especially since I am currently left with the lighter armor cars at this point, except for Sweet Tooth. So I think Spectre was being a huge pain in the ass in this level too. As you can see here, the hells haven't really recharged, but there are 2 hells on the upper levels, and not having the Eiffel Tower blown up is very helpful. No one can really disturb me besides Spectre. And then I think I would sit up here for some time until my homing weapons just would not be able to reach the enemies below, so I would go ahead and join them. I think I was trying to hoard my homing missiles for some time and just use my special in the meantime. And then, yep, see here, this is where Spectre is being a huge pain in the ass, since he can hit you from anywhere. Assuming he's not busy fighting with the AI like Sweet Tooth. Do I get the health to the left? Probably not. I think maybe I was waiting for the fountain recharge before I would jump down to go grab it. What else? Okay. I don't know if homing weapons have also had their homing abilities improved. But yeah, so now that I am... Okay, yeah, so there's the health. Oh yeah, that's also another notable change for this mod. So the Demented bonus, this is what you get when you run over a certain number of civilians in the levels that offer civilians that you can run over. And in the mod, you'll get a Demented bonus every time you run over a civilian. So that is a nice alternative for a health recharge if you need it. Especially for the Darktooth fight on Hong Kong. Hong Kong has a bunch of civilians that you can run over. And they gave me a bit of health to work with whenever there wasn't a health I can grab. I believe they also give you a homing missile on top of that. So in the mod, if you don't have any accessible health packs you can go towards, then find a civilian and you can go ahead and grab one as well. You can go grab health as well as a free homing missile every single time. I think this should be mostly a wrap. I believe that I still do try to hoard some weapons here and there, looking for homing missiles wherever possible. But Spectre is still being a pain with his ghost missiles, so this one has a napalm. Finishing off a homing missile, and that's that. So here is, after Paris, instead of Amazonia, you go into LA rooftops, which for those who played Twisted Metal 1, this was the final level of that game, and that's where you get to fight Minion, the boss, and the last year's contestant for the Twisted Metal contest in story. You can also fight Minion along with a bunch of enemies if you opt to go and put in a code to just skip ahead to the rooftop level. So no Minion here, obviously. You'll fight Minion on Amazonia, but okay, so I guess this level has 5 enemies, so not 4. The other 2 multiplayer specific levels that were added into tournament mode only have 4 enemies, which are the absolute bare minimum available that you can fight on the levels. So that's that. And apart from Hammerhead, coming up here, this part, you'll find me sitting at that exact same spot watching the enemies duke it out over there. So I'm not sure if they just opt to, if they were programmed to just decide that place in a corner of this level was a good spot to duke it out, but I'm just sitting here for some time, taking cheap shots in the meantime. And this only makes things a lot easier on me. I can just sit back, watch enemies deal with each other. I don't know if one of them fell to their death, but they're just still going at it here. Of course, I still give my input, though it's pretty hard to use Warthog Special when there's a bunch of enemies around, since that splits up the missiles and therefore they won't be able to take the brunt of the damage. You don't really need to, even though this is a rooftops level, you don't really need to worry about getting ricochet bombs to knock off enemies. You're better off saving the ricochet bombs for the New York rooftops as well as Antarctica. I think here, this is where I try to go and take cheap shots at Slam and knock him off a ricochet bomb, but it failed, so I came up here. And then I decided to do a little exploration. This part has all the missiles here, so I think I also go and grab one more homing missile after I leave this area. But pretty much I am just simply going around hoarding stuff before coming to finish off Slam. I could easily finish him off now if I wanted to, but knowing Twisted Metal 1, I remembered that there are some parts, like this part, that had homing missiles, and I wanted all the homing missiles I can get my hands on, so that kept me from just simply finishing the level right away. But of course, there are some spots that don't have pickups, and I don't remember those. I have to do a little trial and error here and there. There is one part of this level that is not accessible in the original Twisted Metal 1 rooftops, and that is the building to the right. Which, if I get up to this part of the level... Okay, so... Oh, a little slow down and freeze here. Get some cheap shots here. So you didn't see it, but there's a building to the right of when I got up there where that can be jumped to. There's no ramp to it. You have to use a jump, otherwise you fall to your death. But that lets you go and get onto this other building that is not accessible in the original rooftops in Twisted Metal 1 to go and grab some additional stuff. So probably would have been easier to jump to it to demonstrate, but I didn't do that because that wasn't really the purpose of my game. So here we are in Amazonia, and I am really bummed out that I gave Axe all that health. I did so much damage and could have finished him off there, but didn't do that, and now I just wasted a bit of time. Don't pursue my homing missiles, how dare you. I think I tried to hoard remote bombs here, and then I also tried to collect ricochet bombs for New York, as well as Antarctica. Though it's not as obvious here, especially since the more concerning thing would be the minion boss fight that's right after killing all the enemies on the level. I think I also forgot to mention one more change, is that some levels in tournament mode have one extra enemy where they didn't originally. Not every level has them, so some levels still have their base level enemies, but LA, the very first level, has 6 enemies, while in this mod, the enemy count has been bumped up to 7. Not really an issue, again, with Warthog. There are plenty of ways to do tons of damage, so it's just one extra enemy to kill. I do think I bide my time trying to get pickups, or just waiting to deal damage, but of course I can't really do that when I have Sweet Tooth being a pain. There are some pickups in lava, but there is a remote bomb in lava, and I completely failed to take note of it. Like, every time I try to examine the area to see where it is, I'm like, where is it? There's a remote bomb here, I swear it's here. And just looking back at his gameplay footage, I clearly noticed where the remote bomb was. But when I was playing this level, I was like, damn it, the remote bomb, it's in the lava, but I don't know where the hell it is. I could have sworn I saw it here, but it's not here. So that's now that I know, next time I'll be able to go ahead and grab it. Oh, I think I also tried to hoard power missiles for a minion. So the minion boss fight, I'm going to use the exploit of the temple, which will involve sitting inside there and just taking pot shots at minion, while he just drives back and forth in front of the temple like an idiot, and therefore being an open target for my weapons. But I do run pretty low on weapons, and eventually I decided to stop hoarding my remote bombs and use them to finally finish him off. I speed up that segment though, since I do sit in the temple for a long time. Not very interesting gameplay. Does the lava kill Axel? Okay, yep, it does. Alright, cool. Definitely makes up for him grabbing health on a bridge. The health in the temple in the middle is a full health recharge. I get it when I only have half of my health left. Probably better to use or grab it when I was much lower than that, but it's whatever. So this is another location of a remote bomb. Okay, so then I guess if I'm not mistaken, then this level actually has 4 or 5 remote bomb pickups. Actually 4. So the first one is in the pool, which is the area that I'm about to come across. The second one is in the lava. The third is behind that temple I was in. And then the fourth is in the temple, which I will use as part of my exploit. I don't remember if I went in here to grab, thinking there was a remote bomb here, or if thinking to just pick up turbos. Yeah, I don't actually remember what the purpose of my visit in this side of the temple was. I think maybe it was to just test to see if the AI would be just as easily exploited in this temple area. But I don't think I abused it for too long. Plus, it's also a big waste of time. I could just simply go ahead and kill them. Much easier than just simply waiting. Alright, so that's row killed down. Anything else? Nothing really else of note. It's just really a matter of killing enemies and hoarding weapons as much as possible. Grabbing whatever homing missiles I can get. I still can't figure out how to get on top of that temple over there, which has 2 homing missiles sitting on it. I can't jump on there, I can't use the ramp slopes to get on there, so that's 2 homing missiles that are just sitting on there. It'll be nice to figure out a way to get them, even though this level itself has plenty of homing missiles to begin with. So again, it's just mostly waiting to kill Sweet Tooth and Outlaw. I'm pretty much forced to use my homing missiles. I would try and conserve my homing missiles whenever possible and use my special to do the most damage. But here, the special is just about recharging, and I have to go ahead and kill them with everything else. Alright, so when do I finish off Outlaw, and how do I finish her off? Probably just spamming homing missiles. Now this would probably be where having the minion special would have been nice. I could have just simply done the minion special and then just spam my weapons and finish them off as quickly as possible. But I didn't do that because minion special is not a thing. The minion fight here, the first part of it will be spent not speeding up the video because I'm just simply preparing to get into the temple to do my exploit. Just make sure that you don't stick in a straight line whenever a minion fires a special. Otherwise you get frozen and take a lot of damage. You'll probably also get rammed by minion, and that will be a lot of damage and you'll just be critically injured. At least the temple has health, so... Yep. Still busy hoarding homing missiles. I don't know where minion took damage from, but makes things easy. I think I do one more circling around because minion was just too close for me to really go and simply shoot into the temple. Don't worry, I'll eventually get into the temple and then you'll see the video speed up immensely. And I will be able to go ahead and show you just what it looks like. Alright, so now it's time to speed up this video as I just sit behind this inside this temple, just waiting for minion. And he's just simply moving in front of the temple. I just abuse freezes and shooting power missiles. They do good enough damage, but of course the super extended health that the bosses were given are a pain to deal with. I don't know if you could even go into this temple. I thought that seeing him partially go in from the entrance was a sign that maybe the AI does have the option to do that, but I didn't really have to worry about that. Minion still just mostly moves in front of the temple. He will occasionally jump in front of the entrance, which will probably mess up with my freezes, but nonetheless it's an easy fight with this exploit. And eventually I decide that if I wanted to keep my homing missiles, I will go ahead and come out with the remote bombs. Alright, so easy fight with the exploit. Could I have done it without it? I certainly can, but I wanted to conserve my weapons, and also I was in a section of the level that had remote bombs, and when the remote bombs respawn, then that's an easy way of hoarding, given that the fight would take an eternity. So I had plenty of reason to sit inside that temple. Interesting to see that Sweet Tooth special swirls in this level. I don't know if his special can swirl before Hong Kong, but I guess there it is. This level will give me my first death, and it was to Spectre when I was trying to make a jump from one building to another. Of course, I was kind of nervous with Twister with her tornado, but here, that's where I decided to go and spam my remote bombs, or at least I tried to abuse my remote bombs to deal a lot of damage. Given that both Twister and Grasshopper are two of the cars in Twisted Metal 2 that have small armor, or light armor, probably a good reason to use the remote bombs to deal damage to them. Although, given that I heard 2 female death screams, maybe I didn't need to use the remote bombs after all, so could have saved them. I didn't do as much weapon hoarding on this level. Even when I died, I think that I was a little too pissed off at Spectre to really consider doing a trip of the level, picking up stuff. I just opted to try and finish off enemies whenever possible. But I do think I hoarded ricochet bombs. Of course, my progress was undone with Spectre. being a douche, so... I think just like Paris, I did not blow up the entrance to the pool. This would mean that I can just simply jump in, and the AI can no longer can't really access the pool area. Seeing Spectre spam these ghost missiles was probably my first cue that I should have taken him out so that I wouldn't lose a life. But hindsight is 20/20, so... Is this where I die? Yep, there's my first death. Try and make a trek across a rooftop and end up getting hit with a ghost missile, which intercepted me as I jumped across, so there's my first death. I'll still grab homing missiles whenever possible, as you guys know. No homing missiles in that corner, bummer. And also grab ricochet bombs to prep for Antarctica. So I think this is where I decided to prioritize taking out Spectre. This time I waited a bit so that when I heard the ghost missile, I wouldn't be midair before it hits me. So yep, since Spectre is here, this is where I make it a priority to go and destroy this guy for ruining my fun. And after hitting him with a Rika bomb, that sent him up to be damaged. Or I mean, that sent him up to be disorientated and pinned, and makes it easy to finally finish him off. And I guess Grim decided that he had enough of fun, so he decided to fall to his death. Then I decided to do this Darktooth thing of teabagging via jumping on the corpse of the enemy car. So after the New York rooftops is Suburbia, and this is a pretty large level in the original Twisted Metal 1. It's still a very large level in Twisted Metal 2, but... Oh, okay, so... Shadow just randomly teleported out here. Interesting. Anyway, is it still the largest level in Twisted Metal 2? Actually, yeah, it still is the largest level. It's also very easy to get lost, and even though I played it a few times already, after having gone through Twisted Metal 1 a couple times of Warthog, I still get lost very easily and don't really have a clue where all this stuff is. But for this mod, the mod only presents 4 enemies on this level, and the AI are generally fighting each other since they're out of sight and don't really have any way of navigating without getting lost, so there's also a lot of bumping into the walls from the AI. So I guess the mod didn't really code AI to really function properly on this level. Since again, this is supposed to be a multiplayer specific level and not accessible in single player. There was no AI coded for this to begin with. I do make a trek around the outside just to see what pickups I can get. Okay, I guess not. Maybe I just go and hunt down the enemies since they are clearly not really good at finding me to fight. But thankfully there's also plenty of civilians, so that gives plenty of means to get health when there's no health power-ups around. Though I nearly die from Slam doing his free spam. I think I'm only aware of that one place of health, but I didn't really keep a good mental note of it, so even I had to go around looking for it. Twisted Metal 1 doesn't really work as a good reference for health locations. So. And also pickups. I don't remember if the pickups from the Twisted Metal 1 version of Suburbia are in the exact same place. But mostly pickups in Twisted Metal 1 don't exist in Twisted Metal 2 because they have been made obsolete or redundant by other replacements. So, as you can see here, Mr. Slam has been killed by the enemy AI. What a novel concept. The AI actually killing each other. Thankfully, 4 enemies is very easy to deal with. Though I probably could have turned around much sooner to finish off the enemies. All this time spent chasing Outlaw and then having trouble killing her. Jesus Christ. Okay, I think this is where I now make my trek around the level to go and find whatever pickups are available. Clearly though, they're not in the same places like this turbo. This turbo would be in that twisty section that's coming up right here. But in Twisted Metal 2, it's been moved into the tunnel. So, going off of memory is probably not the best idea for both Suburbia and LA rooftops. And this is how you can tell that the AI has not been coded to work or function properly on this level. The Shadow is just mindlessly spamming his special in the distance. Normally he would use this when he normally would use his special when you're in sight or range of him, not when he's out of sight from you. So here we're in Antarctica, and I use the usual teleporter strategy, which I speed up. It's only good for some time before I have a few enemies left and they decide not to use the teleporter. So I have to actually go out and kill them myself. But I do still try and ricochet bomb one of them to their deaths. One more enemy. Okay, nope, never mind. So a couple of them, no more enemies are going to come through. I already took out half of them through this means. So nice for Twister to kill herself off. Okay, so I killed Thumper by ricocheting him off the map, but that's after I froze him. As for Outlaw, I think I just finished her off the normal way. Overall, not a hard level, and it's still possible to just have the enemies fall to their death by themselves without your help. I think also one other thing I do is try and stockpile all the turbos I can. Turbos in Twisted Metal 2 give you temper pickup, but they burn much slower than Twisted Metal 1. And in Antarctica, the whole midsection has a couple of turbos to pick up, so that makes things very easy. Okay, I guess Outlaw just fell to her death, so. Okay, so I think this part of the level now has been broken off, and I hit Dumper off with a Rickle Bomb. So now we're here on the most fun level of Twisted Metal 2, Holland, Feel the Screams. wide open level that's basically a large rectangle. And it's basically just all-out war with 9 enemies. That's just the same amount from the base game, so that's not really a change. I nearly die here, but there are a couple of health pickups. Of course, this is probably where having remote bombs hoarded would have been a good idea, because I would just go ahead and spam them to quickly kill enemies. And also the health pickups are out in the open, so I guess taking a bunch of damage would still be a good idea, so that you have a good reason to pick up the health instead of just simply taking it to prevent the enemies from taking it. Mr. Slam and I think maybe Hammerhead are problematic enemies for their freeze spam. Mr. Slam especially so. You definitely do not want to be approaching Slam in a straight ahead, head-on confrontation. So make sure that you always approach from the side, and if you see him fire a freeze, that you immediately turn to his side. And if you get frozen, then just pray that the freeze misses, or you have an enemy bumping you away out of range. Definitely a good idea to take out Slam as soon as possible. Although again, this is generally with Warthog, which has a lot of armor, and therefore that makes things pretty easy. If you're in a weaker car like Grasshopper, then I pray you and wish you all the best. Alright, so I think I do try to keep the temple with the full... No, it's not the temple, sorry. The windmill on the left over here, which has a full health. The other windmill has 2 homing missiles, which is great, but definitely want to pick that up when there's not too many enemies around to blow up the windmill, which can easily happen just by simply shooting them with missiles. If you blow up the windmills, then you have no teleporters, so keep that in mind. Okay, nope, yeah, so this windmill is one that has, yep, the full health. Alright, so anything else of note? I think the main thing is just to try and concentrate on finishing off enemies one by one instead of spreading out the damage. Make it a priority to kill Slam or Hammerhead when possible, since they are fond of freeze spam. But if you happen to get them in a cluster, then that would be where having the remote bomb spam would be a good idea. I don't believe I used it here though. The windmill that had the full health will have a remote bomb once you blow it up on the lower level. So I think I do end up blowing up that windmill just to get an extra remote bomb to work with. Although maybe it might already have the remote bomb without blowing up the windmill. But yep, just simply relying on homing missiles to take out the enemy. And I'm running low on pickups, so now this is where having L1 plus R1 as the jump command really helpful. Okay, I guess there's also a napalm up here as well. But anyway, it's mostly a matter of just finish off enemies and grabbing whatever homing missiles I come across, as well as remote bombs if those exist as well. Though the health recharged, so I also grab them to prevent Outlaw from going after them. Alright, so after Holland is Suicide Swamp, and this is where it's very noticeable that the AI just simply goes out to the other part of the level to duke it out, wearing themselves down, and therefore I can just simply go in for a kill. The music that's played on this level, I'm not sure where it comes from, but it replaces, I think, the LA level music. And this will be played once more in the Darktooth fight. This level is pretty compact as well, so ricochet bomb spam is also a thing, and pretty much a good idea for spamming into that area over there. Okay, I guess I got confused then, so it's only Suburbia that has 4 enemies. I'm not sure why, but Suburbia has 4 enemies. Both Suicide Swamp and Rooftops have 5. Not a lot, no biggie. But it's a pretty short level. Didn't really need to speed it up. I could just simply take my time here. Alright. So we're now in Hong Kong, and I think I did try to hoard remote bombs, but it was probably just easier to do this. It was probably just easier to grab whatever was currently available and then move on to Darktooth fight to be able to grab stuff again. Okay, interesting that Sweet Tooth isn't firing a swirly version of his special. But yeah, this health out here in the waterfront area is going to be the bane of my existence on the Darktooth fight. Especially since I abuse my, well, when I get there you'll see, but I abuse my usual exploit strategy to wait for stuff to recharge, and I would not end up taking note of that, for I would not end up keeping in mind of when the health would recharge. But yeah, so I tried to grab as many remote bombs and homing missiles as possible. The homing missiles was for my strategy, my alternate strategy that I wanted to test out against the head phase of Darktooth, which I wasn't really able to successfully do. And I still mostly ended up relying on the homing missile strategy. But you will see that the remote bomb strategy does have some effect, or some use rather, for the head phase of Darktooth. I just didn't really execute it to the best of my ability. And that will be when I start losing more of my lives. I think I finished tournament mode with either 5 or 4 lives left. So Darktooth head phase, I lost most of my lives there. Probably not much shame in that. Losing my first life on New York against Spectre though, that was no good. I think I do try to do some stylish maneuvers with the jump ability near the end. There's no real way to strafe in Twisted Metal, so my alternative was to do a jump across an intersection and firing a weapon that way. Also, I think the AI just, the fact that the AI were all here and bunched up in this section was pretty amusing. So that just meant being able to plug away with my weapons, including power missiles, which I normally only use on enemies that are frozen, not when they aren't. Oh yeah, I was annoyed at Roadkill for yoinking my remote bomb here. I was like, how dare you, Roadkill? I'm trying to hoard remote bombs for Darktooth, and you just simply go and swipe it from me, man. What the hell? That was annoying. Even so, I think I was only able to use maybe like 4 or 5 remote bombs successfully against the head phase of Darktooth. I was not really able to use the remote bombs as best as possible. So just spamming my freezes and homing missiles. Not much of a choice, because when I'm not using them, when I'm not using any of the weapons, I would be using my special weapon. But even I have to wait for it to recharge. All that yee-hawing, only to get killed off right away. Yep. I go into this subway tunnel to grab more homing missiles. Because, you know, homing missiles. Can't live without them. I think they also tweaked the trains on Hong Kong to be more deadly. So they move faster in the temple, and not in the temple, in the tunnel, and will do more damage to get caught in them. I think I get hit by one at some point here. Not too big of a deal, but it's still pretty painful. The tunnel is also a good source of turbos if you need them. Yep, so here's where I get hit, and I get hit for roughly the equivalent of a remote bomb. Probably also fun to just have the enemy get hit by the train as well. Save on having to use any weapons on them. But you know, gotta go pick up more homing missiles. And remote bombs if they respawn as well. But I think this is where I decided, okay, the remote bombs are just taking way too long to respawn, so it's like probably better off just going ahead with taking care of the enemies so I can get to Darktooth, and then go ahead and grab whatever weapons that I wanted during his truck phase, since that's the head phase and truck phase are considered individual parts, so all the pickups will regenerate. And then I don't really need to spend too much time hoarding. So I'll try to do a little stylish move there, jumping and then shooting a homing missile. I think I tried doing something similar to Dumper, so ultimately it was just needless flare for no real reason. Homing missiles. At what point do I go and deal or take care of Dumper? Don't remember. Okay, I think after this homing missile was when I decided, alright, I'm not waiting for any more remote bombs. Let's go ahead and finish this guy off. In a moment, that is, because there's another homing missile. Just rear firing homing missiles. I think I was trying to fire another homing missile here, but my command was not responding. Okay, I guess this is where I get this remote bomb, and now I will finish off Dumper in a moment when he rounds the corner, and then just jump and fire homing missiles behind me. Alright, Darktooth fight. So I will be... There are parts where I engage him outside the exploit, dealing some damage to him, and using up my recoil bombs since I didn't want to use them as the cornerstone of my strategy. This is the one time where I was actually mindful of the health on the road. So if when I took damage it wasn't a big deal, I would go ahead and grab the health here. That will keep Darktooth from taking it. So homing missiles. I make one trip around this intersection. And then I think I go under this subway tunnel path thing, because that at least forces Darktooth to jump over. And while he can chase you, he will never go under the tunnel. Darktooth will also never go past this part of the waterfront area. So if you need him to stop chasing you, then going here would be a good idea. And as you can hear, the soundtrack playing is from the same one that they use for Suicide Swamp. And now I am finally in place to go ahead and do my exploit. Part of doing this exploit is to also wait for the pickups to recharge as well. This was a necessity when I did the level skip to get to this level as Warthog, because I only had 3 lives and I wanted to conserve them for the head phase. So I've been using exploit to take out Darktooth. I take him down to red health, and here my mistake will come once I go out to collect more pickups, because that health would also have respawned on the waterfront and Darktooth runs over it. So that I just ended up artificially extending this fight for no good reason. Okay, I grabbed the health here, so that's probably the second time that I was mindful of the health on the road. I think Darktooth can go under the subway tunnel tracks, but he's generally coded not to. He'll always jump over it in most cases. So it's pretty funny that he just narrowly dodged my vehicle. Just slowly jumped over when he could have rammed me and dealt some damage there. That's a pretty wasteful use of the ricochet bomb, but it did push me forward, so that was actually a bit helpful. Probably a rare application for hitting yourself with a ricochet bomb. Alright, so it's back to the exploit, and I get Darktooth down to red health. Eventually. You'll notice it. This whole part will be sped up in the meantime though, so you'll understand. It's very boring, I know, just sitting here on this entrance. I can't hoard all of my homing missiles for my homing missile strategy for the head phase. So I do have to use them, no matter how much I want to just rely on my special for taking out Darktooth. This will be also one of the rare times where I wish I could have access to the minion special. So now comes my mistake. Hoarding all this stuff. And now look at Darktooth's health. Back to yellow. My effort ruined for my greed of picking up more homing missiles and remote bombs. The remote bombs will help for the head phase, it's just that it was not worth wasting time on taking out Darktooth's yellow health state again to get him back to red health to finally finish him off. So more boring sitting at this temple part entrance, just waiting for Darktooth to finally die, as he has too much damn health. Alright, now it's time for the end game. You fight Darktooth's head phase, and if you didn't see my previous video on it, the head phase has been partially changed. It has the same health as the truck part, which means it's going to take ages to take out the head phase. And now, whenever the head fires the head, instead of it shooting out like a napalm style, it will chase after you, and it'll basically act like a extended flamethrower, what you see here. So every time Darktooth fires this head, it will reset the position, but you can get to certain points to like temple in order to get away from it. The main problem with the head is the fact that it sets you on fire. So if you use turbo, well, using turbo when you're on fire will cause you to drain 5 units of turbo, and therefore that will quickly burn through your turbo reserves if you decide to turbo the moment he hits you with his head. So this is where you'll notice that I got him to half health, so clearly the remote bomb strategy works. The main issue is that the head and the actual vehicle part of Darktooth is not where the head is. So you have to take note of where the actual vehicle is, so that you can actually remote bomb that part properly. So one of my intended strategy was to freeze the Darktooth head, so that would lock the vehicle in place. Then I will go and use a shield and then detonate a couple of remote bombs in order to deal damage to Darktooth, and this was pretty much the only way for me to get the remote bomb strategy to actually work in any way. But of course I was not able to properly exploit that. So now I'm back to 0 and have to regain all my turbos and my weapons. This was where I would go and end up relying on the homing missile strategy. I do make a second attempt at the remote bomb strategy, but I basically turned into a kamikaze car and blew myself up without really taking much of Darktooth's health. And oh, there we go. Another part where I let Darktooth take the health that's on the road. So that's why that health is the bane of my existence. For me not being mindful of that fact, I ended up extending the length of both the truck and the head phase. So that's a real pain. This is where you saw me using the freeze and attempted shield strategy. The shield did not register properly, so I ended up blowing myself up without doing any real damage to Darktooth. I probably took maybe like a few missiles worth of damage on him instead of the actual remote bombs damage on him, which would have been way more crippling. So I am pretty much back to using the homing missile strategy. Here I think I moved up just so that Darktooth would actually follow after me. And okay, I guess maybe the head phase, even though it does clearly have more health, the head phase is still technically a little bit weaker than the truck phase. but it's still not really something you can rely on as far as a fact. It still has a lot of health, and you still need to take it down the hard way if you can't get the remote bomb strategy to work. I think the next thing I should try and figure out is the points in which Darktooth's head would finally stop coming after you when it's in motion. The only time I consistently found that time was when I go through a temple. And see, that's where I waited for some time to not use the... Yeah, so that's where I waited for some time to not immediately use the turbo. Because if with Darktooth's head on me, then I'm going to be on fire the whole time. That's just going to result in me burning my turbos very quickly. And here on my next life, I pretty much made no real progress on Darktooth and dealing any sort of damage to him. I think I pretty much gave up on the remote bomb strategy at this point. I ended up relying on my rear firing strategy with homing weapons. Yep, see me try to use a remote bomb on the head. So the dot is going to follow the head, but not the actual vehicle. So I remote bombed the head, and that wasn't where the vehicle was, so I did no damage whatsoever. I still tried to keep as much of my distance away as possible. But I still need to be careful when you're in a straightaway, because Darktooth can fire freezes, and if you don't take note of that, then you'll get frozen, then the head catches up, and then you'll die. I pretty much end up relying on my shield at this point, because freezes are only really good if I am in position to set up for them. I think this should finally be it. I round this corner and fire the last weapon to kill Darktooth. Alright, so that's the gameplay and commentary. Hope you enjoyed it, and Insanity is out.